2019, rural Ontario. You think you've cracked it? Cheap land, a simple cabin, a couple of solar panels, rainwater catchment, and you're finally out. No boss, no landlord, no hydro bill. Just you, some trees, and a wood stove. Then comes the letter. Notice of Non-Compliance, Ontario Building Code O Reg Ju 33212, Division B, Part 9.36 and Township by Law 2015-27. Your solar panels are classified as electrical facilities, which means permits, inspections, and engineered drawings before you sleep there one night. You fantasized about disappearing. You get an inspector in a neon vest standing in your driveway with a stop work order. The dream is simple. Own land, build small, live free. The reality is colder, energy codes, safety acts, and occupancy certificates written for subdivision McMansions being slammed onto your 400-square-foot cabin. And here's what nobody told you. It isn't just Ontario. 5 provinces, 1 pattern, 1 hour. Let's go. You're freedom-minded. You grew up on the myth that owning land means you can finally live how you want. You paint the fantasy. A small pension, maybe CPP plus a thin RRSP, not enough for a condo in Toronto or Calgary, but enough for 10 acres of bush or prairie. The YouTube homesteaders make it look easy. Shed-turned-tiny home, composting toilet, solar panels, wood heat. No boss, no landlord, no condo board. Then you hit the first fractures. In Ontario, the building code treats anything with sleeping, plumbing, or cooking facilities as a dwelling that must meet the code, including energy efficiency rules in Part 9.36. In Alberta, under the Safety Codes Act, any building covered by the Alberta Building Code technically needs permits before you start building at all. A retiree couple outside Red Deer in 2018 put up a 300-square-foot temporary cabin on their own quarter section, no plumbing, just a wood stove. A neighbor complains, they get a notice. Obtain full building, electrical, and gas permits or face penalties. Impossible math. They budgeted $40,000 for the whole build. Permits, drawings, and inspections run them about $7,000, plus multiple 90-kilometer round trips for inspectors. The law says public safety. Translation: there is no such thing as a harmless little cabin once the code sees you. You thought off-grid meant outside their system. In Ontario, they've literally written your solar panels into the system. Kawartha Lake's off-grid and the Ontario Building Code memo explicitly interprets wind or solar systems as electrical facilities. That classification triggers full electrical permitting and compliance with the Ontario Building Code. Here's a representative case. 2020 Kawartha Lakes area. A man on a small disability pension buys a rough 2-acre lot, puts up a 240-square-foot cabin with a 12V solar system and composting toilet. He thinks no hydro line means off the radar. The township tells him, because he has electrical facilities, the structure is considered a dwelling and must meet OBC Part 9, including energy efficiency and structural requirements. Economic hit, $2,500, $4,000 for engineered drawings, $1,500 in permit and development fees. Potentially $10,000 in upgrades to meet 9.36 energy requirements originally designed for conventional houses. This is where you learn the motif, certificate of occupancy. He can't legally live in his cabin without one, and he can't get one without bringing the whole building up to standard. The memo says, clarifying interpretation, translation, your solar panels just turned your dream hideout into an illegal house until you pay to make it a suburban home in the bush. And if Ontario weaponizes energy efficiency, British Columbia goes one better. They turn green building into a performance test you can't afford. You see the fantasy BC sells. Eco-villages, tiny homes in the forest, solar cabins on the Gulf Islands, rainwater, garden, no 9 to 5. Then you meet the BC Energy Step Code, introduced as a provincial regulation in 2017. And integrated into the BC Building Code as a performance-based compliance path for energy efficiency. It's marketed as voluntary and flexible, but local governments can require it in their bylaws. It demands you prove your building's energy performance through modeling and blower door tests before you get occupancy. Real case anchor, 2025 Aleza Lake area, Regional District of Fraser Fort George. A family builds an off-grid home without a permit. The district orders them to dismantle it. No permit, no inspections, no approval that it meets the building and energy codes. Impossible math, $5,000 fifteenths of dollars for energy modeling, testing, and consultant fees to satisfy step code performance requirements for even a modest custom build. For a retiree trying to build a $120,000 off-grid home, that's 10% of the entire budget just to prove it's efficient enough. They call it net zero ready. Translation: hire professionals, prove your numbers, or your cabin never legally exists, they sell you independence in the brochure. The fine print says, only if you can afford to play by subdivision rules in the middle of nowhere. 5 provinces, 5 different flavors of the same trap. Province number 1, Ontario. You zoom in on Section 936 of the National Building Code, adopted and adapted in provincial codes, including the Ontario Building Code, setting detailed energy efficiency requirements for the building envelope and systems. Municipalities like Muskoka Lakes require zoning and planning approvals, septic or water, sewer approval, development charges, and multiple permit fees before any legal dwelling goes up. Case study, 2021, District of Muskoka. A 63-year-old widow with a $1,600-month CPP/OAS income buys a cheap rocky lot outside town. She wants a 400-square-foot cabin with composting toilet and off-grid solar. She's told she needs building permit, septic or approved alternative system, proof of legal driveway access, and compliance with Part 9.36 energy standards. Economic breakdown, development charges and permits, $6,000, $12,000. Engineered septic system, $20,000. Energy compliant insulation, windows, and detailing, additional $10,000, $15,000 over her simple plan. For a $120,000 total budget, she's burned through 30-40% before building anything that actually shelters her. The code calls this ensuring safe, efficient housing stock. Translation: if you can't afford suburban specs, you don't get to legally live on your own dirt. And if Ontario bleeds you with efficiency rules, Alberta just makes the whole thing illegal from the moment you swing a hammer. Province number 2, Alberta. Under the Safety Codes Act, all contractors and homeowners must obtain permits before starting work on buildings covered by the Alberta Building Code, electrical, gas, or plumbing codes. Building without permits means penalties and extra costs to bring the project into compliance. Safety codes officers can enter premises to enforce compliance, underscoring the power imbalance. Case study, 2022, rural county near Grande Prairie. A retired welder on a modest pension builds a 28x24 off-grid cabin with no permits, thinking distance equals freedom. Aerial imagery or a neighbor tip triggers an inspection. He receives an order: obtain retroactive building and electrical permits. Hire certified trades to sign off on all systems or face fines and possible demolition order. Impossible math. Retroactive structural review, $3,000, $5,000. Electrical inspection and remedial work, $2,000, $4,000. Permit fees and penalties, $1,500. Multiple 80-120 kilometers inspector trips at his cost. On a $1,900-month income, that's financially lethal. The brochure says, Growing Rural Alberta. Translation: you can live in the country as long as your life fits every urban code, every permit, every time. You think distance protects you? British Columbia proves they can use climate policy to reach you all the way up a logging road. Province number 3, British Columbia. The BC Energy Step Code is pushed as climate leadership and a pathway to net zero ready buildings by 2032, with local governments adopting it in their bylaws as a required compliance path. The rhetoric: market transformation, energy resilience, innovation. The reality: energy modeling, blower door tests, specialists, all costing real money. You remember the Aleza Lake family ordered to dismantle their home for building without permits. Modern enforcement is unforgiving. If it's not permitted, inspected, and compliant, it's at risk. Representative case, 2023, a couple near Nelson wants a 700-square-foot off-grid retirement home. Local step code adoption requires energy modeling and specific performance metrics. Costs $4,000, $8,000 in modeling and consulting. Additional $15,000, $25,000 in upgraded insulation, windows, and mechanical systems. On a $150,000 build, they're forced to spend 15–20% just to meet performance numbers written for urban developers. They call it flexible performance-based compliance. Translation: prove your math or stay a permanent squatter on land you legally own. And if you think British Columbia is just too green, wait until you see how Saskatchewan uses Ottawa's energy code to quietly choke out small builders. Province number 4, Saskatchewan. As of January 1, 2024, Saskatchewan enforces NECB 2020 or NBC 2020 Section 9.36 for new buildings and additions applied for after that date. Energy compliance must be demonstrated and maintained going forward. This isn't cartoon villainy, it's implementation of national energy standards. But for a retiree trying to build off-grid, the result is the same brick wall. Case study 2024, an older couple outside Moose Jaw applies for a permit for a modest 600-square-foot off-grid home. They're told to show compliance with NBC 2020 Section 9.36, meaning detailed insulation, mechanical, and envelope requirements, or a full energy modeling path. Impossible math? Energy compliance documentation, $2,005. Extra costs for meeting prescriptive or performance levels, $10,000. Travel and delays, months of waiting while consultants and municipal staff trade paperwork. For someone on 1/800 month, those delays and costs are functionally a no. The handout says, supporting efficient buildings for Saskatchewan's future. Translation: if you can't afford consultants, your future doesn't include a legal roof you own. And if you think language won't be used as a weapon, Quebec is going to prove you wrong. Province number 5, Quebec. The Code de Construction du Québec and strict language laws affecting official documents, Charter of the French Language, Bill 101, mean building permits, instructions, and many technical documents must be in French. Scenario: 2021, an Anglophone retiree from Ontario buys a cheap rural lot in the eastern townships. He plans an off-grid home, pulls up the regulations, and realizes all official material, forms, and many code references are French only. He hires a translator and later a consultant just to navigate the permit process. Quebec has similar NBC 9.36 logic, with energy efficiency and occupancy requirements enforced by the Régie du Bâtiment du Québec and municipal authorities. Economic weight, translation help, and consultant navigation, $1,500, $3,000. Standard permits, development fees, and inspections, $8,000, $15,000. Upgrades to meet modern energy standards, $10,000, $20. For a person scraping by on a small pension, these aren't fees. They're a quiet ban. The official promise is protecting language and safety. Translation: if you're not fluent in the bureaucracy and rich enough to pay professionals, your off-grid dream dies on the application form. Different provinces, different slogans. Climate leadership, rural growth, public safety. But somehow the math always adds up to the same thing. You don't actually get to live simply and legally on your own land. Let's stop talking about codes for a second. Let's talk about what this does to actual human beings. 2022. A woman in her 50s in rural BC installs a robust off-grid solar system, hoping to get a certificate of occupancy for her small home. The inspector tells her to issue occupancy, they need proof that her system meets various codes and in some municipalities that it complies with Energy Step Code performance. That can mean engineered sign-off, detailed schematics, and demonstrated compliance with electrical code and building energy targets. Impossible math. Engineers stamp on solar design, $1,500, $3,000. Upgraded equipment and documentation, $5,000, $10,000. Reinspection and occupancy application, more fees, more months. For someone living on $2,000 monthly income, this is a multi-year financial hit. She starts questioning herself. I did everything right. I made it safe. Why isn't that enough? The answer is simple. The code isn't written for one careful person. It's written for standardized, professionally managed systems that feed into existing institutions. The official phrase is ensuring compliance with modern standards. Translation: Your DIY competence doesn't matter, only your ability to pay gatekeepers. Now anchor in the Alessa Lake off-grid family ordered to dismantle their home northeast of Prince George for building without a permit. Cause and effect. Family buys rural land, builds off-grid home without permits, probably thinking remote means harmless. Regional district discovers the unpermitted structure. Officials enforce the building bylaw. No permits, no inspections, no sign-off equals order to dismantle. In many Ontario townships, similar things happen. Unpermitted dwellings can be denied occupancy, fined, or ordered removed if they don't meet building, zoning, and septic requirements. Economic destruction, construction cost of the house, maybe $180,000, $250 in materials and labor, legal consultations and appeals, $5,000, $20,000. Final result, either massive retrofit to meet codes or demolition. They didn't just lose money, they lost time, years of labor, and trust in the idea that owning land means anything. The notice says, remediate or remove non-compliant structure. Translation: you gambled they wouldn't enforce the rules. You lost. A 70-year-old retiree in rural Ontario with a functioning well and septic wants to downsize, build a small cabin, and cut costs. Local rules or subdivision agreements require connection to municipal water/sewer if available at the lot line. He's told, no certificate of occupancy unless he connects and pays development and hookup charges. You mirror this with Alberta towns where on-site wastewater is tightly controlled. Any new dwelling must use an approved system with design and inspection fees layered on top. Impossible math. Water-sewer connection plus development charges, $25, $50,000 in some municipalities. Ongoing monthly bills, $80, $150. For someone living on $1,700 a month, this is the difference between independence and house poor until death. He stares at the bill and realizes he can't have the simple, low-cost life he planned without a permanent pipeline into a system he was trying to leave. The policy line is ensuring safe, reliable services. Translation: we will keep you plugged in, financially and literally, whether you want it or not. Now you're starting to see it. Different provinces, different details, same pattern. Walk back through the timeline. 2017, BC launches the Energy Step Code under climate leadership. 2019-2024, provinces roll in NBC 936 and NECB 2020, tightening energy and performance standards across the country. Alberta's Safety Codes Act continues to require permits, inspections, and penalties for non-compliance. No exceptions for small builds, no exceptions for pensioners, no exceptions for people who just want to be left alone. Municipalities from Muskoka to small Saskatchewan RMs apply these rules via bylaws, permits, and development charges that stack up regardless of your income or intentions. The core thesis: utilities want captive customers. Municipalities want development charges and tax base. Provinces want climate leadership. Bragging rights and standardized building stock they can regulate, assess, and tax. Off-grid retirees on small pensions don't fit this model. They're not customers. They're not revenue. They're anomalies the system is designed to absorb or eliminate. This isn't cartoon evil. It's a system that treats you as a revenue source and a risk to be managed, never as an adult who can choose to live with less. The certificate of occupancy motif comes back. It started as a petty piece of paper. Now it's the lever that decides whether your home is recognized or erased, whether you're a homeowner or a squatter on land you legally purchased. The phrase they all use is modernization of the building code. Translation: making sure your only legal retirement plan is to stay plugged into their infrastructure, paying their fees forever. You thought the grid was wires and pipes, electricity and water, something you could opt out of by buying land far enough from town. But there's another grid: permits, inspections, professional seals, energy models, language rules, occupancy certificates. This grid doesn't run on copper or plastic. It runs on paper and it reaches everywhere. Ontario's off-grid memo redefines your solar as code-triggering electrical facilities. BC's performance code requires tests and models before you can legally move in. Alberta's Safety Codes Act makes almost any unpermitted structure a legal landmine waiting to detonate. Saskatchewan wraps small builds in big building energy rules drafted for commercial developers. Quebec's language and code bureaucracy quietly shuts out anyone who can't navigate it in French with professional help. 10 worst Canadian towns to retire on a small pension? The worst places aren't ugly or dangerous. They're beautiful rural municipalities where the regulatory and economic math makes simple, off-grid retirement a legal fantasy. Places with lakes and forests and lots that look like freedom until you read the bylaws. A retiree sits at a small kitchen table, inside a permitted, grid-tied house he never wanted, staring at a stack of code printouts and past-due utility bills. The wood stove he dreamed about is in a cabin that was never built. The freedom he imagined died in a permit office. You thought buying land meant freedom. Now you know better. The grid isn't just electrical, it's legal. It's economic, it's ideological, and it's making damn sure you stay plugged in. If you want more uncomfortable breakdowns like this, not the sanitized retirement advice they feed you, subscribe. Start asking better questions about the codes they swear are for your safety.